जैसे मैंने आपसे वादा किया था कि मैं आपको आज एक लेजेंड से मिलवाऊंगी। आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट विंग कमांडर मिस्टर सत्यम कुशवाहा।
I said that no, अब आया हूँ तो करके ही रहूँगा। So I had a very interesting poster। उस समय MiG-29s were the craze in the Indian Air Force। बड़ा अच्छा कोट था उसमें, to achieve all that is possible, you have to attempt the impossible।
How did you restore that sanity, that confidence back?
See, it doesn't happen in one night। When I restarted my training in NDA, it was tough। Every night used to be painful। I mean, there were times when you could not even lie down on bed, you had to sit on the chair and sleep। It's a very uncompromising atmosphere there। I mean, it's not like a college की अच्छा छोटा बच्चा है उसको कुछ करके रखें। उधर में थोड़ा अलग सिस्टम होता है।
सर, मैथ का फोबिया ज्यादा है या हमें बहुत डर बना लिया है मैथ से? It's not that difficult as a subject if you have the right guide with you। So tell me about the role of your father, because many a times you have mentioned your father, how he has shaped you।
I would say the contribution of both my parents has been immense। From father I got mental toughness, meticulousness, go-getter attitude that if something has to be done, it has to be done। Then there is no turning back and there is no बहानाबाजी। मतलब करना है तो करना ही है, मतलब उसमें एक डाउट क्या है। आज मैंने उनसे ऐसे एक प्रश्न पूछा है कि वो भी एक सोच में पड़ गई हैं।
अरे वाह, क्या है वो प्रश्न, अगर हम जान सके सर?
What is the purpose of your life?
बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है। What is the answer to that?
She only has to give it, I cannot give it।
ये क्या बात है कि रिलीजन कभी बीच में नहीं आया? Is it always my country first, भारत माता सबसे पहले, या कभी कभार कि I am better than you?
मैम देखो, हर कल्चर का, इंसान का एक नजरिया होता है। वो नजरिया उसकी ग्रूमिंग पे, जिस इकोसिस्टम में वो रहा है, उसके हिसाब से वो मोल्ड होता है। मेरा एक एम है, हाउ डू आई मेक माई कंट्री ग्रेट।
हाय, मैं हूं मनिका पाल, सिटा माइंडफुल की को-फाउंडर हूँ, सीनियर मेंटल हेल्थ थेरेपिस्ट हूँ और आप लोगों की दोस्त हूँ। जैसे मैंने आपसे वादा किया था कि मैं आपको आज एक लेजेंड से मिलवाऊंगी और लेजेंड हमारे साथ हैं। आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट विंग कमांडर मिस्टर सत्यम कुशवाहा। ही इज़ अ थर्ड जनरेशन मिलिट्री ऑफिसर, a veteran fighter pilot, founder of SciTail Alpha, founding director of Indian Space Association, founder of Chakra Dialogue Foundation, founder of Kranti online think tank. He has saved 3,500 people pan-India through Team Kranti। सर, जैसे आपके इंट्रोडक्शन में था कि आप थर्ड जनरेशन के मिलिट्री वो ऑफिसर है, तो आप मुझे बताइए, क्या ये घर में कल्चर ही यही था कि मिलिट्री में ही जाना है, डिफेंस सर्विसेज में जाना है, या आपका अपना चॉइस था, आपका अपना इंटरेस्ट डेवलप हुआ था?
सो ये मेरा अपना डिसीजन था। बचपन से हमने मिलिट्री डिसिप्लिन देखा था। फादर वाज इन गार्ड्स, सो गार्ड्स की यूनिफॉर्म बड़ी अच्छी होती है। इट हैज़ लॉट ऑफ ब्रास इन इट, सो काफ़ी बार प्रिविलेज मिलता था कि हम पापा की ड्रेस को चमकाएं, मेडल्स एंड ऑल दैट। एंड that was, I think, the first level of inspiration। and then हम लोग कभी शीशे में बैठ के अपने आप को, जब पापा नहीं होते थे, उनकी टोपी लगा के देख लिया and all that। so I mean, जैसे बचपन में एक क्रेज़ होता है, so वो था। and there was no pressure from parents कि क्या करना है। हाँ, मम्मी की एक वो दिल्ली तमन्ना थी कि मैं डॉक्टर बनूँ, because she wanted to be a doctor in her time, medical doctor।
Okay.
but finally, for whatever reasons, I think those days life was conservative, so she went to a non-medical ecosystem and she became a PhD in Sanskrit। तो उन्होंने ज़िद अपनी ज़रूर पूरी की। तो जब 12वीं में पहुँचे तो उन्होंने वो अलग अलग मेडिकल कॉलेजेस के फॉर्म्स, जैसे घर में होता है कि भाई ये करना है वो करना है, तो वो भी था। बट आई वॉज वेरी हेल बेंट। आई थिंक class 3 onwards I had made up my mind to be a fighter pilot। हम लोग जामनगर में थे, तो हमारे घर के ऊपर से ना MiG-21 उड़ते थे। and I mean, we were in that flight path of either landing or take off। so every time aeroplane used to go, I used to leave everything and I used to just look at it। and that idea firmed up and then it remained so till the time I sat in the fighter cockpit for the first time।
वाह, आसमान तक की जर्नी। ओके, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन जो मैं आपसे पूछूंगी या मैं जानना चाहूँगी, अभी आपने मुझे कहा कि आपका करियर आपने थर्ड ग्रेड में ही सोच लिया था दैट यू वांट टू बी अ फाइटर पायलट। टेल मी अबाउट व्हाट वर द ऑब्स्टेकल्स दैट यू हैव फेस्ड ड्यूरिंग दैट जर्नी फ्रॉम थर्ड ग्रेड to becoming a fighter pilot and sit in your cockpit? उस जर्नी का बताइए, तब ऑब्स्टिकल्स क्या आए थे?
I think first thing was with respect to mathematics. Generally, उस ज़माने में ना तो ऑनलाइन सिस्टम्स थे. The places where we were staying were not very urban. So getting quality maths teachers was a challenge. And somewhere down the line, father was away for a long period of time, almost about 6.5 years of field experience.
Okay.
So he was initially in Sri Lanka, then he went to Arunachal, and then, so it was a long period of time where we were not with him. So एक fatherly guidance होती है maths की, वो थी थोड़ी. तो the base that could have been better, I suffered there. And for that reason, when I reached my 12th, I had severe challenges. But then dad came at the last moment and I cleared that obstacle. So that was something like, what you call adversity management in life. Then came my NDA exam. So again, my maths was not very fine, as I told you. So I came to Delhi, and there I took some coaching from Maharaja Surajmal College of Engineering. I think it is there in Janakpuri. So I'm the first student who made it to NDA from that ecosystem. So what I found is I found a very good teacher who could solve my basic fundamental problems. He was Mr. Gulati. Wow. And he had a fantastic book called Cosmos Publications, which solved my problems in life of mathematics. So I think that was something very important, and I was able to bridge that challenge. I joined NDA in 92 May. So I had a very severe injury in my spine. So I was bedridden for many months. And the recovery took a toll on me. And it was when I got back into active training activity, and NDA is fairly ruthless in terms of the quality of physical toughening that is required there. So it did pose some severe challenges on my ability to handle them. But I think the aim was very clear that होना हो करना तो है ही है.
ये एटीट्यूड बहुत जरूरी है.
Because I remember when I was lying on bed and the doctor asked me whether you want to continue or you want to call it quits. I can help you either way. Because I was very critical. I couldn't barely move my hands and all because my left side was affected. So I said that no. अब आया हूँ तो करके ही रहूँगा. So I had a very interesting poster. उस समय MiG-29s were the craze in the Indian Air Force. So, एक बड़ा अच्छा कोट था उसमें, to achieve all that is possible, you have to attempt the impossible. Absolutely. So I think that I used to see it every day because my head used to be on traction. I had some tubes running left, right, and center. So every time I used to just see it, and I used to, have it in my mind that this journey I will reach the cockpit.
कहाँ से हम शुरू हुए मैथमेटिक्स की प्रॉब्लम से with real life problem, and you really have faced this.
Yeah, so but then I think God was kind, and I was able to slowly overcome all my physical testing standards that are there in India.
So what kept you going, sir? How did you restore that sanity, that confidence back?
See, it doesn't happen in one night. Initially when I started, when I restarted my training in NDA, it was tough. Every night used to be painful. There were times when you could not even lie down on bed. You had to sit on the chair and sleep for days and weeks. And it's a very uncompromising atmosphere there. It's not like a college की अच्छा छोटा बच्चा है उसको पुचकार के रखे हैं. उधर में थोड़ा अलग सिस्टम होता है. So बट ये था दिमाग में कि पास आउट तो होना ही है और फाइटर पायलट बनना ही है. तो आई थिंक दैट वाज वेरी क्लियर इन माई माइंड कि कैसे भी होके बनना तो ही है.
और सिर्फ फाइटर पायलट बनना.
हाँ.
डोंट माइंड मी आस्किंग, कभी ग्राउंड स्टाफ बनने का मन हो या कभी टेक्निकल टीम में हेल्प करने का मन हो या कोई भी और चीज़, आर्मी क्यों नहीं, नेवी क्यों नहीं?
ओके, आपने बड़ा अच्छा सवाल पूछा एक्चुअली. सो टेक्निकल में जाने के लिए मैथ्स बड़ी अच्छी होनी चाहिए थी, एंड आई न्यू दैट
मैथ प्रॉब्लम is math still the problem?
I have chosen a field where maths is not required now. But
Okay.
I would put it this way, and I'll tell you what, that I think maybe we may revisit this subject later, but just since it is relevant here. So right now through my foundation, I'm actually focusing my efforts on ensuring that the problem of maths that is there in India, that is sorted out from the root.
Yeah. And usually, sir, what I have, to be very honest, even I have to confess here that I'm also extremely mathphobic. सर मैथ का फोबिया ज्यादा है या हमने बहुत डर बना लिया है मैथ से? It's not that difficult as a subject if you have the right guide with you.
Yeah. So coming back to the first solving the, it was like I was basically a designer and a creator. तो मुझे डिज़ाइन, क्रिएशन, whether creating an organization or creating a concept, strategy, so that was something that was always very deep in me. So I remember even in school, I used to be making those scientific models, and I got the national award for Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan Award for best model in environment management in those days, where I used garbage to create a functional plant which would be half the size of this room. And I did it in a place called Binaguri, where there were not many resources. Even if I had to get a soldering iron, I had to travel 100 kilometers away to Siliguri just to get that iron and a small motor. But it was there that करना है तो करना है.
ये कहाँ से? Is it genetic in nature?
Yeah, I think it
or
is.
You have picked it up from?
No, my parents both are very headstrong, mission oriented that way. ये करना है तो करना है.
Okay.
So it was that technical was rolled out.
Okay.
I have good administrative, I mean, people say that I'm able to manage administrative coordination well, but passion was being a fighter pilot, and then I thought कि खानदान में इतने फौजी हैं तो कोई एयर सपोर्ट तो दे दे.
अच्छा, so सिर्फ इसीलिए on the lighter ground. Okay, so आप जब बात कर रहे हैं अपनी फैमिली का, so tell me about the role of your father, because many a times you have mentioned your father specifically. So how he has shaped you?
I would say the contribution of both my parents has been immense. From father, I got that mental toughness, meticulousness, and go-getter attitude that if something has to be done, it has to be done. You know? Then there is no
turning back,
and there is no banabazi. मतलब करना तो करना ही है. मतलब उसमें डाउट क्या है? And I mean, I had a strong, tough upbringing. It was not very, what should I say, you know.
Tough upbringing, मतलब sir, आजकल के मतलब AC नहीं था?
No.
If you used to get punished, that stuff?
You would say that he was strict.
Okay.
And he meant business. So when he said it, it meant it had to be done. मतलब you don't have a choice. And I think that was required at that time, because what I am today, it's because of the contribution of both my mom and dad. He was a slogger. If he took on a job, then he finished it to its entirety. I think he's still 100 times better than what I am today. As far as my mother was concerned, she had that resilience. And when my father was away for a long period of time, 6.5 years away, and being in a place like Binaguri, which is in a remote area where not many facilities were there, to handle two young boys who are growing in their adolescent stage is a different challenge, of course. And she managed it. I mean, she used to get up at
single-handedly.
4. Yeah, she used to get up at 4 in the morning. I never had bread jam in my school. It was always a delicacy she used to make.
Wow, beautiful balanced diet.
Yes, and she was very particular about things. Yes, there are times when we revolted because as a youngster you don't like that much of discipline. But I think that academic sense I got from mother's side.
Wow.
She's been a writer, she's been a scholar. So, the love for poetry, old, music, and, those kind of things, I would say.
बहुत कुछ पता चल रहा है सर आपके बारे में जो कहीं अवेलेबल नहीं है. When you're talking about two boys, one is you, so tell me about the brother that you have.
I have a younger brother, he's in the army. So
Okay, so he's in the army. So वो लैंड का वो देख रहे हैं और आपने एयर स्पेस
you
देखा.
can see.
अमेजिंग. चाहे आप फाइटर पायलट हो, एयरफोर्स में है या आप आर्मी में, एक मेंटल टफनेस की ज़रूरत होती है. तो वो आप आजकल के यूथ में जो शायद वो उतना नहीं है, कहीं ना कहीं मिसिंग है, तो आप कैसे उनको क्या बात बोलना चाहेंगे? वो कहाँ से आपके अंदर वो करेज आया? आपकी मम्मी से आया, आपके डैडी से आया, या आपने बोला? बट देयर हैज़ टू बी सम करेज दैट यूजुअली इट इज़ योर ओन जर्नी. योर पेरेंट्स may be the great mentor that can guide you, that can facilitate you, that can nurture you. But जिंदगी आपकी है, तो वो mental toughness जो इस प्रोफाइल में रिक्वायर्ड होती है, वो आप कहाँ से लाए?
I think शुरुआत तो ग्रूमिंग से होती है. And I think as a parent too, we need to be firm, but we can be polite.
Okay, good balance between the two.
Yeah, so I never believed in hitting. I didn't like hitting. So even my son, I am firm, but I am polite, and I communicate in a manner in which he understands, and I am happy that he understands. Okay.
Assertiveness.
Yeah. So, and where it is wrong, and you need to communicate in a manner in which it is honorable for that person. But at the same time, he or she understands that, like, this is a red line.
Okay.
Not to be breached.
Okay. So मतलब सारे पेरेंट्स अपने मतलब इंस्ट्रक्शंस क्लियर रखें.
Yeah, clarity of communication, because kids are intelligent.
Yeah.
If they're handling devices, if they can do all naughty things, and I think naughty things also require a lot of innovation.
Yeah, a lot of brains.
A lot of brains. I mean, I have also done my fair of mischief in my childhood, but what's important is that मार्गदर्शन जो होता है ना जिंदगी में
जी,
और यहाँ पे पेरेंट्स का बहुत बड़ा रोल होता है. आई नेवर फाउंड माई पेरेंट्स फॉल्टिंग ऑन दैट.
तो और प्रेशर अब हम सुनने वाले पेरेंट्स पे है.
Obviously, it's a responsibility.
It's a big, huge. It's a responsibility, and do you think it is a shared responsibility?
Yes, it is a shared responsibility, and there are ways of communication, right? Like you have normal business communication. You can be tough in your lines, or you can give a direct or an indirect hint, and it all depends on what outcome you want and how you're dealing with the problem. So I think that is something very important. The second aspect is about courage. I would say that once you face adversity, you start building that yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. Yes, there are times when you're weak. We all go weak. But what's important is that how you rebound back.
Yeah.
So even when I do my hirings, if I have a choice between somebody who's been A1 but he crashes under pressure, or there's a person who has seen failure but he's risen back, I would prefer that candidate.
So are we talking about the emotional intelligence?
It is both.
So both?
EQ and IQ are both important.
Are you leaning towards EQ more or IQ more?
It has to be in balance.
Okay.
Because both are needed. Empathy is needed in a human being. You can be courageous, you can be very brave, but you can still have watery eyes because you're a human being.
Of course.
So I think that internal strength is very important, and that is something that a person has to work upon. If you're trying to lead an entitled life कि ओ मेरे को तो ये नहीं मिला, मेरे को वो नहीं मिला, it doesn't work like that. नहीं बनती,
नहीं बनेगी बात.
वो तो आपको खुद ही मैनेज करना पड़ेगा. कुछ लोग जल्दी सीख जाते हैं और कुछ लोग
पूरी जिंदगी निकाल देते हैं
और फिर भी नहीं सुधरते. तो ये तो इंडिविजुअल के ऊपर है वो कि अपनी जितनी जल्दी आप अपने आप को एडजस्ट कर लें. आई थिंक
सर इट इज़ नॉट वेरी कॉमन टू हैव दिस go-getter attitude and you're hell-bent on things. in third grade only you have decided that you want to be a fighter pilot. आपके friends का क्या role था? What was the role of your peer group? They never told you that let's be an actor, you know, or a doctor, or an engineer, or a lawyer.
हमारे ज़माने
थोड़ा सा भी नहीं हिला पाया.
हमारे टाइम पे ना 3 ऑप्शंस होते थे लाइफ में, या तो डॉक्टर बनेगा,
या
इंजीनियर बनेगा, या डिफेंस में जाएगा. कॉलेज वाज स्टिल देयर वर नॉट मेनी ऑप्शंस. अभी तो है जर्नलिज्म, ये वो. मतलब आजकल जो मैं इनोवेशन समझता हूँ, इन्फ्लुएंसर, आई मीन these were unthinkable in our times.
Absolutely.
So, and I used to be scared. I would be very honest about it, because my maths was a challenge. And I was in a class where some people are really good at mathematics, because I kept changing schools and all. So there's a large variation of the ecosystem. Initially, I was in ICSE, then I went to CBSE.
Okay, that was another challenge.
That was another challenge. And then a change of place.
From tier 1 city to tier 3 city.
Not even tier city, a normal, in middle of a tea garden. So
a district.
I mean, it was a military area in middle of a tea garden. So, you know, by the time you even knew who you...
So, were you able to make good friends? Or like permanent BFFs, the best friends forever?
Yeah, I mean, I am still very connected to my...
To your childhood friends?
In fact, I'm connected to my schools. I go to my school in Northi, I mean, in Binaguri. I go there, and the many students from that ecosystem I mentor today. I initiated a trophy on best innovation of the year for a best student in my school where I studied, because that was one thing which I learned when I was in National Security Council, the necessity and the power of innovation. So I said that rather than preaching, let me start in my own school.
Yeah.
So
charity begins at home.
Absolutely.
Okay. So बहुत सीरियस बातें हो गई, तो अब थोड़ा ऐसे सेगमेंट पे चलते हैं which is battle of choices. So I'll be giving you 2 options and you have to choose one and justify why you have chosen that. Okay. So fighter jets or satellites? मुश्किल में डाल दिया पहला क्वेश्चन.
Both are important.
Okay. ज़्यादा important कौन और क्यों? कौन सा और क्यों?
They're 2 different dimensions.
Okay.
In today's world, both are important.
Okay. Strategy planning or hands-on execution?
Again, both are important. Unless and until you've not done things hands-on, you will never be able to design good strategies.
So are you a planner or are you a doer?
My profile has been such that I have been both.
Okay. So in 50-50 percentage?
It's all conditional.
Towards something?
It's conditional. There are things which require execution. And when you are executing also, you need a strategy, right?
Okay.
And similarly, when you are planning, you also think of the doing part as well as the strategy part.
Wow.
So things are very intertwined in today's world. You cannot put it into कि अच्छा ये तो बस इतना ही करना है. हाँ मतलब हाँ वैसा नहीं.
Okay. So leading from the leading from the front or working behind the scenes?
Ideally leading from the front, but working behind the scenes is much more important. When you are dealing with men, you have to be leading from the front. But when you are dealing with government ecosystems and when you want to bring the change, it is good to work behind the scenes and enable the people who are the flag bearers rather than seeking limelight yourself. This is one thing which I learned in National Security Council from my...
You don't need a limelight, sir. Limelight follows you wherever you go with this profile of yours.
See, I mean, I never designed it कि भी मैं आपके सामने बैठा हूँगा. I'm very happy doing things behind the scenes. Okay. Absolutely fine. There's one thing very interesting that my former boss, Dr. Arvind Gupta, he was the deputy NSA at the National Security Council, who used to tell me. And he told me once that, Satyam, if you want to bring a change, then it is good to be the enabler behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Don't seek limelight. Yeah. Things will happen.
Yeah.
Because the moment you start seeking limelight, you start making more enemies rather than friends. So it is good.
And it's not easy to deal with humans.
Yeah.
So we humans are complex people.
It's good to identify people who have the potential to see through and and lead a change. What's important is feed them with the right information. And information which is in national interest. It's not personalized. Yeah. I mean, and then let the glory go there. How does it matter? because you need to be very clear कि you want the change or you want the limelight.
Yeah.
Both are very different solutions. If you want limelight,
but ये आपने आंसर बिल्कुल साफ साफ दिया है. Okay. Adventure in the skies or solving challenges on the ground. थर्ड ग्रेडर बन के सोच रहे हैं या अभी वाला सत्यम आंसर देगा? कौन सा आंसर दे रहा है?
solving problems on ground.
Not being in the sky.
See, that was great.
That thrill. How does it feel, sir?
I mean, it's a different. I mean, it's difficult to write it in words, but yes, it gives you a huge punch of adrenaline in you. It gives you that sense of achievement.
Yeah.
What you've done, but I think, I mean, as you move in life, you have to keep transitioning. You have to keep evolving, retiring, reinvigorating yourself, and I think that now is the time when all the thrill and this thing is behind.
Yeah.
And now is the time to give back to the system, to the society, and to give back what I've learned to help, make the present ecosystems better to the best of my ability. I'm not saying that I'm the only reformer born. No, there are many people who are doing better jobs. But in my humble capacity, whatever little I can do, if I can do, I think that will be worth it.
Wow.
So this is also a journey. It has its own adventure.
Wow.
It requires
I hope it continues and gets productive results.
Yeah.
Okay, so military discipline or entrepreneurial freedom, क्या एंजॉय कर रहे हैं ज्यादा? मिलिट्री का डिसिप्लिन माना हुआ है.
आई थिंक फ्लेवर दोनों का लाइफ में चाहिए होता है. एंटरप्रेन्योर को भी एक डिसिप्लिन चाहिए, और आजकल के ज़माने में विद so much of make in India and so much of impetus being given to entrepreneurship. Yes, entrepreneurship is something which is needed, but at the same time, you need some discipline, some method in the madness, which I think military has. Military discipline, or I would say military ethos, if we can, slightly expand the scope. There's some good value systems that you learn in military, which I think are very, very valuable when you are leading teams.
Okay.
Leadership.
So if you can tell us 2 or 3 things, ethos of military that you're using as an entrepreneur in your Chakra Foundation.
First is that you have to lead. You have to lead by example, which means that when you ask a junior to do something, you have to do it yourself, right?
Okay.
And we at least try and inculcate that in Chakra. Second aspect, which is very important, is that you care for your people. There are a lot of ecosystems where the due that is due to your junior ecosystem, the youngsters and even interns, may not be adequately given. It is, you just pay them and, you extract work out of them and then you just leave them. Here we are trying to do things differently. I like to give ownership to people who do credible work.
So are you a very secure individual, sir?
Secure in what sense?
Secure in all because when you're saying that, give this ownership and sense of responsibility. So you need to be extremely sure that my student is not going to succeed me. मेरा चेला कहीं मुझसे ही आगे ना निकल जाए. कभी ये थॉट कभी दिमाग में आया?
मेरी सोच थोड़ी सी अलग है मैम. मेरी सोच ये है कि अगर कोई किसी से पूछे कि तेरे को मेंटोर किसने किया है, अगर वो मेरा नाम लेता है, that is sense of victory for me. Individuals will come and go. What's important is what legacy you leave behind. And I think most important thing is, what I insist on my people is, I don't believe in ChatGPT.
आज के टाइम पे,
and I'll tell you how. I'll justify it. I said, when you think of a problem statement, suppose somebody gives me a problem statement. So in my entire professional life, I've never used ChatGPT or internet that way. I first use my common sense to solve the problem.
Okay.
You can use ChatGPT to value it in terms of data.
Yeah.
Or
maybe you phrased it in a better way.
If you keep
maybe.
एक ज़माने में हमारे जो पेरेंट्स होते थे ना मैम,
जी।
उनसे बोलते थे वो हिंदी में ना अपने पहाड़े बोलते थे ठक, और हम कैलकुलेटर लेके लगे रहते थे. So what machines are doing to you, it is stopping your ability to think.
Yeah.
If
Critical
machine
thinking.
is used to bring better efficiency, it is
Yeah.
fine. But if it is killing your innovation, if it
We're
is
talking about the dependency here.
yes. So what I always tell them is think original,
Yeah.
value add thereafter. So this is something which I teach. The next thing that I do is I give my juniors a fair chance. So when we sit on designing strategy or something, I sit like the student and I'll tell them that, okay, this is the marker, whiteboard, and I have this idea, tell me how it will fail.
Okay.
And I give them
How it will succeed or how it will fail?
first how it will fail.
Okay. So you like to map things,
Yes.
map the weaknesses.
And not one, I'll ask each one of them, जो
Okay.
बताओ क्यों गड़बड़ है इसमें? Why will it not
है
connect with
सर के
the
सामने बताने में?
मैम
Are they very open about it?
मैम लाइफ में ना प्रोफेशनल ईगो ऐसे वाले काम में नहीं होने चाहिए.
ये सारे
Professional-
कॉर्पोरेट वाले सुनेंगे, वो अपने बॉसेस को ये जरूर वीडियो दिखाए जहाँ पे थोड़ी भी ईगो नहीं है,
मैम-
जहाँ पे सिर्फ रिस्पेक्ट के बारे में बात हो रही है, म्यूचुअल.
and I'll tell you how it works and why it works well.
ओके.
When you're sitting in a collaborative environment, a think tank or things like that, what happens is you've got 5-10 people, whatever, were sitting in the room. Each one is a system by himself or herself. They have their own views of viewing things, right? Understanding things. What I have is better than them is experience, but they are more original. They're young and they're growing.
Wrong.
They're connecting to the student ecosystems. They're seeing failures in their life. They're seeing how they're consuming different types of technology, how it's working in their life. Now, if I start giving them sermons on day one कि नहीं तुमको ऐसा करना है इसको छाप दो, तो गलत होएगा. पहले उनके because what is my aim? My aim is spread awareness about, I mean, my foundation is about building India's comprehensive national power, and it's about nation building. So I want to understand what do they feel, unless and until you understand where the challenge is, how will you solve that problem?
Of course, absolutely.
Got it? So I make them actually work on the board, and then I'll tell them, okay, if you want to make it succeed, how will it succeed?
Okay.
Once I have captured that mind, then I apply strategy.
So it's bottom to top processing that you.
Yeah, I would give them a trigger statement.
Okay.
Um,
Let them brainstorm.
let it churn in their minds.
Many ideas.
And I give them time. I unless something is very, very time sensitive.
Yeah.
And and similarly, there are times when I come up with I may feel that it's a fantastic idea, but I put it on the table that, listen, I think about it this way. And you are at full liberty to tell me, sir, you are 100% wrong. And it doesn't work like this. And if it has to work like this.
Okay.
And what I speak, I actually do it on ground. So उससे क्या होता है कि जो आजकल के बच्चे हैं ना, उन पे मेरे को बहुत I would say I believe in them. There are a lot of comments that they may not be yes, I mean there are some who are on a different track. But as I said earlier, they have ideas, they have aspirations, they have the skills, or they will acquire the skills. What is important is उनका मार्गदर्शन कैसे है. आप उसको चेंज करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आपको उसकी जैसे रिवर होती है ना मैम,
Right.
रिवर बह रही है, आप उसको बांध नहीं बना सकते ना.
जी, हर जगह डैम नहीं बना सकते.
आपको उसको इस तरीके से चैनलाइज करना है कि वो रिवर की जो कैपेबिलिटी है और स्ट्रेंथन हो जाए, और वो जो उसका पर्पस है वो ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट कर सके. अगर आप किसी को एकदम केज करके रख दोगे
Of course.
कि आई मी माई सेल्फ, तो फिर काम नहीं चलेगा.
क्रिएटिविटी कहाँ से आएगी?
क्रिएटिविटी किधर से आएगी आपको?
Absolutely.
और मैं अपनी क्रिएटिविटी किसी और पे नहीं डाल सकता. हाँ, उसकी क्रिएटिविटी समझ के अपने एक्सपीरियंस से उसको ये ज़रूर बता सकता हूँ कि यार अगर आप ये करोगे तो शायद आप ज़्यादा सक्सेसफुल हो जाओ.
आजकल फैसिलिटेटर ज़्यादा बनना है एज कम्पेयर टू अ मैनेजर. व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दिस? क्या फैसिलिटेटर के साथ साथ चले?
मैम ऐसा होता है ना कि
गिरने से पहले संभाल लें या गिरने दें उन्हें आज की जनरेशन में?
देखो मैम, कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं जहाँ पर गिरने देना ही नहीं है. ड्रग्स,
एब्सोल्युटली,
अल्कोहल,
या जो अनफॉर्चुनेटली बहुत कॉमन प्रॉब्लम होती है. राइट.
वो नहीं होने देना. बट प्रोफेशनली कोई बोलता है सर मैंने ऐसे सोचा है, तो अगर मेरे पास टाइम है तो बोलता हूँ ठीक है बेटा कर ले,
ओके,
लेट हिम लर्न।
इम्पोर्टेंट इम्पेरेटिव्स, इसको आप अच्छा segregate
मतलब
करके
लाइफ में ना रिमोट कंट्रोल होने से काम नहीं चलेगा।
और हेलीकॉप्टर सुपरविजन भी काम नहीं करती।
Supervision sometimes is there where you feel it is necessary.
Okay,
But because, you know, I'll tell you why. Because that builds that person's confidence.
yeah,
My aim is not to make youngsters try to make a replica out of me.
yeah,
You know, that जो मैं हूँ वो तुमको बनना है. Each person is individual. Each energy has a weight, you know, has its own each person has a frequency on which when it is tuned in a certain way resonates the best. So आपको उस रास्ते में उसकी काबिलियत को किस तरीके से वो ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल कर सकता है ना, आपको वो दिशा दिखानी है, आपको उसका जो जामवंत का काम करना है। अगर मैं इसको बहुत सिंपल टर्म्स में बोलूँ कि आज जैसे मैं यहीं पर मिला था किसी से एंड उनके अंदर बहुत काबिलियत है और वो उस चीज़ से रिलेट भी करती हैं जिस एरिया से मैं रिलेट करता हूँ, यू नो, हेल्पिंग पीपल इन टर्म्स ऑफ मेडिकल इमरजेंसी। बट आज मैंने उनसे ऐसा एक प्रश्न पूछा है कि वो अभी एक सोच में पड़ गई हैं।
अरे वाह, क्या है वो प्रश्न, अगर हम जान सके सर? अगर आप बताना चाहें।
What is the purpose of your life?
Oh my. बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है। What is the answer to that?
She only has to give it. I cannot give it.
Whatever. Okay. So आज की generation है,
but what I'm doing is I'm connecting. So there is a problem statement. There is a capability.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is I'm triggering that mind. How that mind gets triggered?
Yeah.
Because she has a lot of capability.
Yeah.
What's important is how she harnesses this capability to connect to that cause and then brings a change in that problem area. That is what is required.
If only we had such wonderful mentors in our life. So this actually brings to the end of this particular segment of ours. After your illustrious career of over 27 years, sir, कितने different लोगों से मिले, different culture, different intellect, different religion. ये क्या बात है कि religion कभी बीच में नहीं आया दोस्तों में? Is it always my country first, भारत माता सबसे पहले, या कभी कभार कि I'm better than you, I'm more fit than you, I'm more intellectual than you, or maybe I have more skills than you? कभी ये आता है या कभी ये आया था?
मैम देखो, हर कल्चर का, हर इंसान का एक नज़रिया होता है
जी।
वो नज़रिया उसकी ग्रूमिंग पे, जिस इकोसिस्टम में वो रहा है, उसके हिसाब से वो मोल्ड होता है। मैं किसी को सुधारने के लिए तो नहीं बैठा। मेरा एक एम है, हाउ डू आई मेक माई कंट्री ग्रेट, मेक इन इंडिया ग्रेट। वेरी सिंपल। मेरे को दो चीज़ समझ में आती है, हाउ डू आई मेक इंडिया ग्रेट, और दूसरा है राष्ट्र हित सर्वोपरि, which is the slogan that we have in Chakra, and that is national interest comes first, always and every time.
Yeah.
Anything
over the personal interest all the time. So is this the non-negotiable of your life?
Yes.
मतलब ये तो होगा ही होगा।
हाँ। So इसके अंदर में जो उसे जुड़ता है बहुत अच्छी बात है, जो नहीं जुड़ना चाहता, जिसको डाउट्स हैं, फिर वो भैया आप अपने रास्ते जाओ, मैं अपने रास्ते जा रहा हूँ, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
ठीक है, क्लैरिटी है,
बहुत क्लैरिटी है। एंड आई मस्ट टेल यू दिस, एंड आई एक्चुअली इम्प्लीमेंटेड दिस थॉट प्रोसेस इन क्रांति, जो मेरा ऑनलाइन इकोसिस्टम है। I mean, it is knowledge, resources, analysis, networks, technology, innovation, integration.
Yeah.
So this was a small think tank that I created when I was in National Security Council, when I was steering the geospatial reform. So I wanted views of public, academia, industry to be incorporated in policy making. आज इसके 16 सितंबर 2016 को शुरू किया था, अब 8 साल से ज़्यादा हो गए इसके। मेरे पास हर तबके के लोग हैं। As far as subjects are concerned, there are 64 different ecosystems working. Whether it is national security, whether it is defense, whether it is paramilitary, or whether it is police, or whether it is scientists, the politicians inside it. There are people or environmentalists, there are people from spiritual background, there are people from education background, youth employability,
All
aspects,
walks of life.
health, mental wellness, mental health. You name a thing, it is happening there. And people from diverse political spectrums are there. अकेले में होगा तो सर फोड़ देंगे एक दूसरे का. यहाँ पे साथ में रह के खुशी से काम करते हैं और राष्ट्र हित की बात करते हैं
जी,
और कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती. और ये मेरा टाइम टेस्टेड सिस्टम है, 8 साल से चल रहा है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. कभी इक्के दुक्के कुछ हुए तो उनको समझाना पड़ता है कि आपका मुद्दा क्या है. अगर आप मुद्दे से जोड़ते हैं बहुत अच्छी बात है, नहीं है आप अपना नया शुरू कर दीजिए, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. मगर यहाँ पे ऐसे ही काम होगा.
तो ये आपके कुछ नॉन नेगोशिएबल्स हैं जो बहुत क्लियरली
enshrined
एंड आपके सारे जो भी टीममेट्स हैं दे आर क्वाइट फेमिलियर एंड दे हैव एग्रीड टू दिस.
वो जो कोई ग्रुप का पार्ट बनता है तो उसको पहले वो एक चली जाती है
टू डू लिस्ट. नो कहेंगे एथिक्स, योर नॉन नेगोशिएबल्स,
व्हाटएवर, कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट एथिक्स की भाई यहाँ पर काम ऐसे होएगा.
ठीक है.
And the background to this is that I mean in military we have that सर्व धर्म स्थल. So हमने तो वही सीखा था.
अरे आगे भी वही लेगेसी पास ऑन करेंगे.
हाँ, मतलब everybody is important if you are contributing to the nation. आप यहीं पैदा हुए हो, यहीं रहना है. अगर यहाँ रहना है तो इसी को आगे बढ़ा लो. इसके अंदर में अगर आपकी थॉट जो है वो डिविजिव है या आप सिर्फ खुदगर्जी में पल रहे हो तो फिर वो राष्ट्र हित में तो नहीं है.
एब्सोल्युटली.
तो
इसके अंदर पहले अपने अंदर झांकना बहुत जरूरी है कि हम क्या चाहते हैं.
Absolutely, ma'am. So that clarity is very important.
Yes.
That
self introspection.
Yeah, because your ancestors have lived here.
Absolutely.
They've given their lives for this.
Yeah, the freedom fighters and everything, sir.
So you better connect with your civilization, and you know, here a sense of history is very important.
Yeah.
People who forget their roots, and it doesn't matter from which faith you come from.
Yeah.
What's important is faith is not above the nation. Faith is something personal that we have been taught. I mean, there are people who meant
be advocating.
They may differ about it, but the way I think about it is that faith is something personal to me. And
it's a personal connection to the divine power.
Yes, and what matters to me is my nation. एंड उसके लिए तो हमने जब कमीशन हुए तो हमने कसम खा ली थी.
ओथ है कि जान भी हाजिर है. हाँ,
वो रहेगी. और यूनिफॉर्म चाहे पहनो ना पहनो होता है ना, यू मे लीव द यूनिफॉर्म बट द यूनिफॉर्म डजंट
नेवर लीव्स यू.
सो दैट रिमेन्स ट्रू.
वाओ. सो एक बार अगर आप डिफेंस में चले गए तो आप हमेशा एक डिफेंस पर्सनल बन के ही रहेंगे लाइफ लॉन्ग.
आई वुड से मैम जो एथोस होते हैं ना मैम,
वो इनग्रेन्ड हो गए.
हाँ मैम, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल यू ऑलवेज केयर फॉर योर मेन. सो मतलब आप अपने खाने से पहले चक्कर आपके जूनियर्स ने खाना खाया है कि नहीं खाया. मैं छोटी सी चीज़ है ये. सिमिलरली
आजकल के बॉसेस को सीखने की बहुत ज़रूरी है, बहुत ही ज़्यादा ज़रूरत होती है उस चीज़ की.
आई मीन साथ में खाना है
जी.
आई मीन आई जनरली एटलीस्ट इन चक्रा आई इम्पोज इट that whether it's an intern or it is a senior guest who coming, we all eat together.
So there is no segregation of who's leading the team, nothing of that sort. That's commendable.
And you eat the same food. Even my servant will eat the same food.
बहुत बढ़िया. कोई फर्क नहीं है.
कोई distinction नहीं है.
Okay. अब आगे
because unless and until you know you give that mutual respect.
Yeah.
How will a person feel for that organization?
There won't be any sense of belongingness to the organization. That comes with respect. I guess हम में से सारे लोग ये एग्री करेंगे कि हम नौकरी सिर्फ पैसों के लिए नहीं करते. Respect, comfort and freedom of choice, freedom of speech.
I think इज्जत is most important.
इज्जत बहुत important.
You can eat grass.
सही कह रहे सर. इज्जत बहुत important है. काफ़ी अपॉर्चुनिटीज शायद हम छोड़ते भी हैं और मिस आउट भी करते हैं क्योंकि इज्जत को चूज किया हमने over money.
And as a military man, इज्जत is most important.
I hope it stays like this with us.
It will.
सर आपने बोला कि नेशनल सिक्योरिटी में आपने काम किया है तो आपको थोड़े टफ सवालों का जवाब देना पड़ेगा. हम रिक्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं. Is India equipped with everything that is required if unfortunately ever we get into a war with either Pakistan or China? Are we ready?
मैम readiness तो हमेशा हो रहती है. As a military, you have
ये
to be
मेंटल
always.
स्टेट की बात कर रहे हैं या हमारे पास रिसोर्सेज भी उतने ही अच्छे हैं?
See, ma'am, one has to be alive to the resources that a nation can bring to bear.
Right.
What's important is how you understand the enemy and how you deploy your resources to ensure that sufficient deterrence is there to address any misadventure, and do you have the capability to impact an outcome should somebody get naughty about it.
Okay. So do we have the manpower? So it's stick. So हम लोग आराम की नींद सो सकते हैं, भगवान ना करे कभी ना हो.
So I think you have the finest human resources in the world, and I think the finest armed forces in the world.
Yeah.
Because you compare anywhere in the world. Let's say when India got its independence and you see the entire Southeast Asia or anywhere, everywhere there has been chaos, everywhere there have been coups and things like that. India is the only apolitical army you will find.
Touch wood. I hope it remains
Next,
like that.
you see their role during disasters. You see their role during various challenging situations. They have executed their work professionally. We don't interfere in politics. We don't get into nasty things. We are role oriented and we are very happy about it.
Wow.
So, and that is where the strength of our military is.
Wow.
The ability to focus on what our job is, and should the enemy feel
क्या चाइना और पाकिस्तान को हमसे डरना चाहिए?
मैम,
चाइना बहुत जल्दी डेवलप्ड कंट्री बनने वाली है, बन चुकी है
मैम. कैपेबिलिटी देखो, जिस हिसाब से उनके पास रिसोर्सेज हैं, so obviously he's got more resources, his ability to do bigger things.
Yes.
But they know, I think, very well that they cannot roll over us.
So हम भी किसी से कम नहीं है?
I think they learned their lessons.
Okay.
I mean, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And
So
otherwise,
ये behind the camera हम बात करेंगे इस बारे में और?
मैं वो तभी मेरा वही जवाब होगा.
Okay.
कि
for the national interest.
I'm not being politically correct in front of the camera. I think yes, there is a lot to do. There's a lot of resources required, and that is where, and today's world, war fighting is not only about military bean count. It is about economics. It is about geopolitical influence. It is about diplomacy. So that's where the
contention.
The comprehensive national power of a nation. And that is the focus area of my Chakra Foundation. So that is how it is linked.
Okay. So आप मुझे बताइए, Russia is a friend of India. Do you really think if we need Russia, would Russia be standing with us?
I think that you must ask President Putin.
But no, with this illustrious career, sir, आप बिल्कुल एक सही कैंडिडेट है इस बात का जवाब देने के लिए.
मैम देखिए, international affairs and international relations are about interests. Till the time the interests of two nations are aligned, everything works well. The day politics changes in either country and it goes in a different tangent, potential, I mean, I cannot predict it. But given the history so far, this relationship with Russia has stood its test of time.
Okay.
It has been consistent, and there is a strong trust at the apex level. And so far, they have delivered, and so have we taken the wrath of the world. And if you see in the larger context, the path chosen by our present honorable foreign minister and the prime minister, I think our approach stands vindicated. So life में कभी भी impulsive नहीं होना है, थोड़ा लंबा सोचना है. So you have to keep shuffle. You have to be a realist. You have to be an optimist, and you have to be a futurist.
Futurist, okay.
And
all beautiful combination of all three.
Yes, and you have to keep shuttling between them depending on how the situation.
और हम कर रहे हैं ना सर, मतलब हम आराम से सोच सकते हैं ना, normal नागरिक. Wow, that's what I'm saying. एक towards the end, ये जानना बहुत जरूरी है आपका, क्या इसको इस सेगमेंट को ही क्या नाम दें? पहला नशा नाम दे दें? Your first. Our first question. First flight as a fighter pilot. कौन सी flight थी वो?
Ma'am, just to correct.
Yeah.
One is first flight as a trainee cadet.
Okay.
And then first flight as a fighter pilot.
First flight as a fighter pilot, sir.
Okay, so that happened in Chabua.
Okay.
And that was in the year 19 98, you can say. And
Okay.
it was,
27 years ago.
yeah, I mean, mathematics you can do. Fascinating.
Yeah. Wow.
The speed is very high because the transition from the kind of aircrafts I had flown earlier to now, I mean, the speed is very fast. So the pilot who was the captain behind, I said, do this. I mean, I was trying to just cope up with, putting the undercarriage up, this, that, dish. So things happened very, very fast. So,
wow. So it was a beautiful experience.
I mean, I was trying to cope up with the speed of the aircraft and what was happening around. But I think by the second mission, then I got my bearings right. I would put it this way.
So the first challenge that you have faced during your training time?
I think I made a mention about my NDA challenge that I had. Even during I was supposed to fly on 26th of July 1996. That was supposed to be my first flying mission. No, 27th. So 26th evening, I was in my place and it was slightly dark, and some accident happened and my hand went through glass, to the window glass, and I had multiple ruptures and glass embedded in my hand, and my nerves were thoda sa impacted, and it resulted in about 56 stitches in my hand, and I said, not again. But
so this was not the first time that it had happened?
I mean, not again in the sense, generally I've had injuries in life, fairly interesting and deep ones. But you didn't expect something like that. And, if you fall back behind in your syllabus beyond a certain point, then you get terminated.
Okay.
And I still remember that it was 14th of August and I'd come to Air Force Central Medical Establishment in Delhi, and that time Air Commodore Hegde was the head of that organization. So I reported there, and all doctors kind of downgraded me that you need still one more year to recover and all that. So I didn't get my clearances, except I think one recommendation from the aviation medical specialist. I forgot his name. So on 17th of August, when I was put up in front of the medical board, and he said that, I'm sorry to inform you, but we are giving you, he was giving
sabbatical?
No, they were giving me A3G2. I mean, that means that I could not have flown solo.
Okay.
And I said, sir, that is not possible. So there's a group captain standing there, forgetting his name. He stared at me, Acha. You need to behave yourself. You're standing in front of the commandant. And I said, sir, this is a question of my life. I'm perfectly fine. And before anything would happen, I just got onto my knuckles. I did push-ups, then I hand on the door, I did, and then I operated the switches on the board. And I said, my hand is absolutely fine. Yes, it was painful, but he says, everybody was kind of taken aback. But I think I must grant it to Air Commodore Hegde that he saw that thing in me, and he said, if you come back to me with pain, then I'll throw you out. I said, okay. So he said, "Bacche ka paper fir se banao," and he said, "Fit for duties in any part of the world." I mean, that's how the category is given. And so I think that was something that was one major setback that I had. But I covered it up and I passed out with my course in time. I think that was a big achievement. And I did it okay.
Okay. What was your first recognition? Pehla major recognition life mein that has boosted your confidence and your inner belief?
I think there have been some in different phases. First one was when I was in school in class 10th, when I stood first in the National Science Exhibition. So I think that was first one, because I came from a very small city and I was pitted against very high-flying students who had come from all
elite schools of Delhi.
No, they were from all Kendriya Vidyalayas, but they were also very mod and posh. And I came from a very, very simple background. I mean, being in Binaguri, your exposure is not too much. So that was, I think, something which gave me a lot of confidence. After that, I think passing out from NDA, despite my medical challenges, I think that was a self-assurance that yes, things could happen. And then I reached my basic flying, and again I had this. So I said कि करना तो यही है, जो भी होएगा देखी जाएगी. And my first, if you see, professional recognition, that came when I was into satellite image analysis. So I came out with some new ways of doing things which were absolutely new, and they had a strategic impact. And the good part is that many years later, I learned that much of my work had been ground validated, which meant a fair amount of, for a person who works on satellite imagery, especially across, you don't get that validation. But in this case, I got the validation that what I did was correct.
हाँ. पहला लीडर या पहला मेंटोर जिसने बहुत बहुत आपको इंस्पायर किया?
In person or otherwise?
मेंटोर, लीडर.
बचपन में तो सुभाष चंद्र बोस थे. I share my birthday with him, so that is something which was so कदम कदम बढ़ाया जाए.
I guess the thinking and the feelings are very mutual.
So मेरी ringtone भी कुछ भी होगी तो सब उसी format में चलता था. So and as a child I used to hear that there was a lot of history in my life actually. My mother, because she came from that background, so she used to teach me a lot. I mean, चलते चलते walk करते करते a lot of history of India's culture, Indian kings, the battles and all those things. So एक अंदर में कहीं कुछ था that there are certain things that I didn't like, and someday India's honor has to be taken care of. So I think that was something which was very, very important. And as a military leader, I would say my dad, because I've seen him very resolute. He was very honest, impeccably honest. He never misused resources. And I saw him in active operations more in the Northeast. We were in a place called Chakabama. And there were times when suddenly it used to be said that, okay, choppers are coming and they have to go. And I used to see him addressing his men. And when he used to, address his men, some very important things I recall was that women have to be respected. And people have to be treated properly. Many times armed forces are accused that you were being high-handed, but here I actually saw my father briefing his men and leading from the front. I think that left a very, very important that was inedible mark on my mind. So whenever I saw somebody of character or something, I always saw my father there. So
name this phenomenal personality.
He is Brigadier Ranveer Singh.
Mr. Singh.
So that is how it is. And then when I came in my professional career, I think I admire President Kalam a lot. Because both what he did for his country and for the greatness that is attached to him, and that is humble. Many people, when they start getting success and wisdom, they start taking too much of pride and they become inaccessible, or they start throwing tantrums around. What I learned from him is that the more you rise, the more responsible you have to be, and the more humble you have to be, and the more you have to give back to the society. And I think that is something which has been
the motto of your life.
One of the important focus areas of life. Within the flying ecosystem, I think an innovator who has really impressed me is one squadron leader, Francis de Puna, who made India's best mission planning systems. The zeal with which he used to work, I think that is something which I got from an entrepreneurial side. How he used to go about things. I mean, there are a lot of detractors he had, but the way he navigated his way through, and he was always trying to be top of the line, despite whatever. I think that was something classy, and I still respect it.
Wow.
And from the flying side, I had a senior king cover. I would just leave it at that. What he taught me, or us when we were youngsters, I like this attitude. And what he taught me about, some simple things about aviation and how do you understand the law of the lay of the land and things like that. I think those guiding principles still I carry with me.
It still resonates.
I have deep respect for it.
Wow. There are so many mentors in your life that has, that has really contributed to your success. So, आप बताइए, what was your first step towards founding the Indian Space Association? You are one of the founder person.
So, it was a consequence of a few startups who went up to the Honorable Prime Minister asking for better support.
Okay. So who was the Prime Minister?
Honorable Prime Minister Modi.
Modi.
This is December 2020.
Okay.
So that was the time I was just finishing my tenure at the Ministry of Road Transport. Based on that, the directions were adequately passed, and the Prime Minister suggested that there should be an association which only focuses on space and which understands the ecosystem well and helps the industry in its path to success. So based on that, my boss, Lieutenant General Bhatt, so he was tasked by the NSA to set up an organization. And so this happened somewhere in 3rd week or 4th week of December. And I think in the middle of January, then I was contacted, where he asked me if I would like to get into something like this. And frankly, for me, it was something very inspiring and interesting, because I saw it as a great opportunity to build something. Some missions are so noble that you are not worried about money. But what you are more interested is giving a country a solid base, which I thought that with my skill sets, I'll be able to do better justice to it. So that is how then it is me, my boss, General Bhatt, and me, then we sat down on the design board and we planned out the way ahead, started doing the paperwork, and then COVID happened in between. So there was a break for
it was halted?
Personal meetings are halted. Some things are continuing online, but at that time I requested him time that handling COVID emergencies was important, because the human being in me was too driven to save lives.
Wow.
And so there was a pause for some time, but once things started settling down, then we got on to the task. And then we started, me and there's another person, and then we all together then created a team. And then on 11th of October 2021, that was when the Honorable Prime Minister launched us. I think we are the only association who has been launched by the Prime Minister. So that speaks of his own interest in the subject area. And it was a very rare privilege.
So you had the opportunity to meet the Honorable Prime Minister on different...
it was an online launch because we were in the middle of COVID.
Oh.
But yes, initially, when we had planned it, it was like we thought that maybe it would be we will make a tweet and it will get the support of the Prime Minister on that. But then we were told that no, he will inaugurate it himself. And it was, I think, 6th of October evening.
You're so good with this.
And 11th October, those 5 nights were...
sleepless nights.
Because, from designing a program, and there's a proper protocol that has to be followed, speeches, you have to give talking points for everybody, you have to give a minute and second wise plan, and all this I had never done in my life before. So it was... sometimes you have a learning curve ki acha beta sikh jayega. Here it was like a straight line up. I mean, there's no, and when you're
And you're not
handling a
bound to make
person,
any errors.
yeah, it was like that. And yes, there's a full ecosystem that got in with us from our founding members. So it's not that it was my effort; it was a team effort. But I am glad that it was executed well and the event went off well. And we started from a few members. Today we are 81 members. All the top space industry is with us. And we've been part of every policy discussion with the government. We've been giving up point of views. And we have, as a team, dedicated our lives to ensuring that we can make a strong, we create the strong regulatory frameworks with which this ecosystem can thrive and give India its strengths in the space sector in times to come. So I think ultimately it's a team effort. Nobody is supreme.
Yeah.
It's a joint effort.
Wow. अब पहला नशा की बात हो रही है तो थोड़ा पर्सनल स्पेस में जाते हुए हम ये लिवरेज लेते हुए पहला प्यार, फर्स्ट लव.
Oh, it started in class 3 and that was with vitamins.
So class 3. Very safe answer, sir. Very, very safe answer.
I'll tell you why. It was a दीवानगी. छाछ की आवाज़ आई तो मैं बाहर, कुछ भी हो रहा है मैं बाहर, खिड़की के बाहर, ऊपर नीचे, मतलब in defense, there are certain type of houses where there is no terrace. So there are water pipes and then there is the roof. So I have even risked that just to get the glance कि वो अच्छा ऐसे एंगल पे जा रहा है, वो ऐसे मुड़ रहा है, So it was
third grader, meaning you were only 8 years of age.
Yes.
So पहला नशा और पहला प्यार 8 साल की उम्र में ही हो गया. और वो भी machines के साथ. Amazing.
What is pyar? It's basically something that impacts your mind, right?
Yeah.
And
You're passionate about.
And it enters your body, mind, and soul,
Yeah.
and then it remains with you. So even now, if I see मतलब वो
कभी भी आप जाएंगे?
मतलब ये अभी तो नहीं, बट जनरली होता तो अच्छा कौन सा जा रहा है, क्या जा रहा है, अच्छा how is he maneuvering,
Yeah, that still holds a special place in your heart.
Yeah, I mean I carry it always.
Wow, beautiful. ऐसी सेलिब्रेटेड पर्सनालिटी हमारे साथ है तो ये क्वेश्चन पूछना तो बिल्कुल बनता है. सर, कितने सारे लोग हैं जो आज ये पॉडकास्ट सुनेंगे, ऐसी ऑडियंस को आप क्या एक मैसेज देना चाहेंगे जो एयरफोर्स ज्वाइन करना चाहता है?
So I think Air Force, or rather first let's start from the Defense Forces. Defense Forces is a place where you might need people with a very different mindset. If you're coming here कि मेरे को जॉब करनी है, this is not the place for you. हाँ, अगर आपको देश के लिए कुछ करना है, देश के लिए सभी कर रहे हैं वैसे, बट यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा जो डिग्री ऑफ डिफिकल्टी एंगल अलग हो जाता है. So you have to find pleasure in challenges, because there are times when you may not have the best ecosystem to give you comfort. You may be in very, very far off places. You may not get to communicate with your loved ones. I mean, quality of communication has improved today, but there are times when you may not even receive letters in time. We've been through those days. Or there are times when you would have pressures which sometimes are definable, sometimes are not definable. But you have to still be focused on your job. You have to still deliver. And you have to achieve outcomes. The purpose of Air Force is to win the war. And when you have to win the war, then nothing else is important.
Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters.
उसका दिमाग में क्या चल रहा होता है सर?
I'll come to that.
Okay.
So what's important is that, are you that metal which can remain motivated in that environment and also keep your men motivated and still deliver on the outcomes? I think that is a makeup that is most important. You can hold on to your integrity. You will find times when there are a lot of lures coming to you. Are you able to still retain your value system? I think these are very important things which generally are common from a defense forces perspective. as it comes to Air Force, especially fighter flying, you need to be calm. You need to have enough processing power in your mind despite being overloaded with everything. You should have the ability to multitask. You should be able to think in multiple directions and multiple dimensions and still be able to focus on what you're supposed to do in real time. You have to work as a team, because when you go in fighters, you're going as a team. So harmony with your team is very important. You have to be a team person. You cannot be someone who's individualistic कि मैं यूं ही हूँ और बाकी सब कुछ नहीं. So ये कुछ basic ingredients हैं एक military life के लिए, and especially for a fighter flying environment. Every day study. अनलाइक अदर प्रोफेशंस की किताब बंद कर दिया, अभी मस्ती मार रहे हैं. हाँ, बॉडी वो क्या बोलते हैं आजकल बड़ा चल रहा है कि लाइफ बैलेंस एंड ऑल दैट, बट
वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस.
हाँ, वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस, बट फौज में पढ़ना पड़ता है. एंड स्पेशली इन फाइटर फ्लाइंग, यू वांट टू सर्वाइव, यू हैव टू स्टडी, एंड इट इज ईच डे. Each day, if you have a mission tomorrow, you have to study at least 5-6 hours. You have to prepare. You have to think, eat, breathe, sleep, fantasize that mission. Because only then it will flow naturally to you. Okay.
Wow.
So from that perspective, if youngsters are willing for that, then get into it. Otherwise, there are better professions. I mean, I'm not saying कि नहीं सबको इधर ही आना है. So choose your battle in life very carefully. But yes, it's a fantastic profession. It gives you that sense of power. It gives you that sense of adrenaline. I mean, where in the world will you get paid to fly 1,000 crore plane for adventure? I mean, that way. But yes, with that power, the kind of planes that you fly, there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of discipline. It's not like you bike लेके घुमा रहे हैं, मस्ती कर रहे हैं. सरकारी जहाज है, टैक्सपेयर का पैसा है, the human lives that can get impacted. So you have to be a very responsible person. And most important, I think that is required is self-discipline, whether somebody is watching you or not. There are a set of procedures that you're supposed to do by, whether you say it by the rote or by the process. So you cannot bypass that. No. Whether somebody is seeing you or he doesn't see you. And that is where the honesty of purpose comes into play. And that honesty has to be yourself, to yourself. Because if you are not honest to yourself, you'll kill yourself.
Right.
So it is a no-nonsense profession, but an exciting profession. You get to taste speed like no ordinary human beings is exposed to. You get to fire weapons which worth crores, which can have a devastating impact, which can wipe off a civilization with a press of a button.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So with that kind of firepower at your fingertips, you have to be very sure.
Yeah.
Because collateral damages will completely finish a war today. So you need to practice that. Okay. And that is where your professional integrity comes into play.
Wow.
So there's something called an honor code that we have. I mean, there's certain rules which you fly, but if you have violated anything before you start your mission debrief, you're supposed to talk about it. So your integrity has to be very high. You may have made a mistake. We all make mistakes in life. But you have to have the courage to stand up and say that, yes, I
own up to your
faltered.
mistakes.
Because unless and until you realize you made a mistake and you own it up, you'll never improve yourself. So I think these are some of the things which are very, very important as I see them.
Okay.
Besides your basic knowledge levels and your, those things are equally important.
So math important है?
Maths है, और मेरे को बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती थी, और मैं करता
हूँ. कई लोग हैं जो कर रहे हैं मेहनत. So math is very important, and so is the
maths is a very fundamental
strength and the discipline that is required.
I would say, pressure बहुत होता है. बहुत सारे जॉब हैं, सरकारी नौकरी में आ गए तो भाई अब तो 60 साल के बाद ही निकलेंगे, ऐसा नहीं है. Each day is your test. Each mission that you fly, you need to be mentally prepared that maybe there may be a different outcome. I mean, this
could be last.
I would be more polite and say it could be a different outcome.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, not that everybody is falling off the sky. So, वो एक गलत हो जाएगा. Stress levels are high. The cockpit is very demanding because the nature of combat has changed over a period of time. There's a lot of sensors that have come, so that is a lot of information flow that is happening. So you need to be, well versed in handling them. There's so many features in this, like it's like your mobile. Imagine 6-7 mobiles and each showing a different set of information, and now you need to connect it. Karna kya hai?
Oh God.
So you have to be very decisive.
Okay.
You have to take a call.
You don't have to be impulsive, but
You have to be decisive. And that is where, they say the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. Similarly, in a fighter cockpit, the more you simulate yourself, the more you read, the more you practice.
Hands-on practice.
The less likely are you going to make mistakes which can
be catastrophic
or, bring an impact which is desirable.
Okay.
Undesirable. Yeah. So there's a lot of त्याग in it.
Yeah.
नीचे दिखता ना वो जहाज जा रहा है, बड़े रोल मारा उसने, बड़ा अच्छा
Sacrifice भी तो है.
मगर अंदर उस जगह में बैठने के लिए और उसके काबिल रहने के लिए और उसमें काबिल बने रहने के लिए एक होता है उधर पहुंच जाना, और दूसरा होता है कि रीचिंग द पीक इज इम्पोर्टेंट. No, once you reach the peak, how you retain that peak?
Retention of that.
To be there, to remain motivated despite your challenges. घर में सबके chaos रहता है, कभी ये challenge हो गया, वो रह गया, सब्जी नहीं आई, बाजार बंद.
ये भी tension होती है?
होते हैं, obviously. I mean, all domestics are there, by the way. उससे आपको कोई छुटकारा नहीं है.
Okay, so there is no relegation.
मतलब ठीक है, I mean, there are spouses. They do take care, but what I'm saying is that those things are there. So you have to deliver under those circumstances also, as well as look after other requirements of life with equal sincerity. So, I mean, generally आप बाहर देखते हैं कि I worked 8 hours a day, or there's a lot of debate on number of hours today. Ask a fighter pilot or ask a defense guy what is working hours. There's nothing like working hours. You're always on duty.
Okay.
So, but yes, it's a very honorable place. It exposes you to the best of technology in the world. It teaches you great amount of management under stress, time-sensitive conditions. There's a lot of responsibility on you, both on ground and when you're flying in the air, because your wingman is there. You are his responsibility. He is your responsibility. And in wartime, one mistake and you are vapor. I mean, and it's very non-filmy, by the way. Don't get swayed away by films. The real life is very different.
Okay.
ठीक है ना? So
I guess हम इतना सुरक्षित इसलिए महसूस करते हैं क्योंकि आप लोग हैं. That's what I guess we should be extremely thankful about.
I would say everybody is contributing to national security. I mean, even an entrepreneur who makes a great technology is equally contributing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you guys are there, you're paying your taxes.
But the demand, this particular profession is actually demanding, is not very easy. For everyone, I don't think so. It is everybody's cup of tea.
I would say that you need to have that makeup of being persistent. How do you handle your adversity? Because there are times when you may not be well. There may be times when things have happened and you're not in the right frame of mind. How do you detach yourself and remain focused on the mission that you have to fly? And how aware and alert are you in the cockpit? Because अभी तो बहुत सारे recorders आ गए. हमारे टाइम पे ग्राफ वगैरह बना के you have to कि अच्छा ये हुआ, then he was here and then that guy was there and this was the angle and all. You have to recreate everything. And you have to build a situation that how things happen in air. I mean, today a lot of aids have come. Now that is another challenge because now the machine is overtaking you. So the machine, you will say कि नहीं ऐसा नहीं हुआ था, बोलता नहीं machine तो ये बोल रही है.
Again, then
so
need to
so you have to have your wits about you. You have to have your common sense.
Okay.
So
common sense, self-discipline, integrity is very important.
Yes.
And then fourth and most important is there is no work and life balance. You could be called anytime.
See, I would say that it's not, I mean, it will be because people outside may not understand it that way. If we use it, there's no work-life balance. I'd say that it is that the national security is a continuous process. So, often people say that दूसरा करे तो मेरे को instant service चाहिए. चाहे वो मैं रात को 2 बजे भी फ़ोन करूँ तो मेरे को यस सर डिलीवरी चाहिए.
Instant gratification of need
इंटरेस्ट
is-
है जब, बट मैं हूँ तो नहीं यार, मेरा टाइम तो इतना था. Sorry, now I'm outside 6 o'clock, so I can't deliver.
I can't be answering you. Yeah, responding to you.
Yeah, contact me on Monday on so and so time. Forge can't do that.
Yeah.
So
I hope you never do that.
don't worry.
Okay. So आप मुझे बताइए चक्रा फाउंडेशन का क्या रोल था, क्या आपका वो समय था और एक्सपीरियंस था कोविड टाइम में?
Ma'am, firstly, we are Chakra Dialogues Foundation, and this got founded just about in 2023. But the role that was executed was by Kranti, which I had mentioned to you earlier. So, Kranti was an ecosystem of about 1,500 professionals. And when this call came, and how it came was that in WhatsApp group suddenly found like water the requests were flowing. I mean by the time you read it, maybe 200 lines would have come. And that was the rate at which the requests were coming to save people. And so then I realized that it is beyond the normal, and we needed to create a separate ecosystem for that. So we worked on it for about 48 hours, and we raised an ecosystem of about 400 students. And you'll be happy to know that all were girl students who are hailing from Kalindi College, JDMC later on, LSR, and Rakshri Raksha University from Gandhinagar. So this was, and there's some boys also. And then we had about 600-700 of our own Kranti ecosystem professionals who had volunteered. And this was a massive effort, because we did it for 4.5 months, continuously 24/7. There were 40 groups that were created that were working on a 24 hours basis, and the entire roster was managed by 2 young girls who were in second year from Kalindi College.
Wonderful.
Flawless. And that's why I said that I have a lot of faith in this present generation. They came from very average backgrounds. Probably they were, they used to be seeing Netflix all their lives. Some had not even seen the front side of the college, because 12वीं के बाद सीधे फर्स्ट ईयर में पहुंच गए थे. कोविड चल रहा था तो they didn't see that. But they rose to the occasion. I never had to, push them on that account. And it was like a full-fledged digital hospital working. We had complaints ecosystem. They were assigning based on priority, and thereafter the field was going. There's somebody who was connecting with them, and depending on, giving them that support that don't worry, things will happen.
Wow.
And then we had oxygen groups and ambulance groups and all that. So there were a lot of intricacies in this, oxygen with cardio, or COVID with neuro, those kind of things also. And I taught the students how to make maps and all. So whenever any situation came, they automatically plotted how things were to be done. And they gave priorities. Okay, destination is here, where to go, what is the route to be followed. Our coordination was to that level that even up to, you can say, at night time, if you go in a busy, in very narrow streets in some parts of Delhi, your GPS lock will break. So ambulance doesn't know what to do, where to go. So even having a guy positioned at the gate to take the ambulance to the right place from within the ecosystem, ensuring the headsets are charged, the paperwork is in place before the patient is put onto the ambulance.
So that was all ensured by the Kranti group.
It was all, and the youngsters were doing it. There's a doctor, we had many doctors, and there was one Dr. Kuldeep Razada, who was through and through us on an almost 23 hours basis through this entire 4.5 month period. And we would have saved about 3,500 people. We even shifted, and most of the cases that we saved, these were, I'm talking only of the, you can say, low SpO2 cases, 50 and lesser. उसके ऊपर तो काउंट ही नहीं है. Some cases I remember where there's a pregnant lady who was moved all the way from Haridwar because they were not responding there. We brought her all the way to Delhi, and all the hospitals that were there on the way, they were activated. That should something happen, at least we should be able to take out the baby. So the planning was at that level. So somebody is monitoring the oxygen, somebody is monitoring the driver, somebody is just talking to the family.
And they all were volunteering this?
This is entire. I mean, they were. I mean, you'll be surprised that there are generals who were working with these kids.
It's so beautiful to know this.
So there's no egos. That's what I told you.
It's so beautiful to know this, that at the time of crisis, people are coming together and they're showing such level of empathy.
There were times when kids told me that, sir, agar kuch ho gaya garbad to kya karenge? Because there were some cases, legal system, ye wo. So I said, don't worry.
वो formalities का क्या?
So I said, if there is any case that happens, I will take the blame and I will face the legal action. There's nothing on you.
Oh.
They had that confidence. And then if you do a great job, the glory is yours. So success is yours, failure is mine. So that was a very, very clean
assurance given to you.
And they knew I meant it. And I actually mean it.
Yeah.
Because as a leader, that is what you have to do. Second thing was important was that even if there is a 0.0001% hope that you could save a person, you move the earth, shake the mountains, but it has to be done. Gladly, we never, in my memory, I don't recall us losing a patient on the road.
Wow.
There were casualties when the hospital staff was moving, say, a patient from first floor to ground floor or those kind of things. Or, having reached the hospital, now the hospital is delaying and, because there were all kinds of chaos that were happening. हॉस्पिटल में वैकेंसी है मगर दिख रहा है अंदर मेरा बंदा बैठा हुआ है बोलता है सर बेड दिखा रहा है मगर हॉस्पिटल के गेट नहीं खोल रहे हैं सो यू हैव टू प्लान दोज कंटिजेंसीज दैट यू मूव फ्रॉम द हाउस in fact there is this case which was covered in print where you have to take decisions and that is where I think the Air Force decision making
ethos are translating into that.
So there was this case where there's an old Ghaziabad. I mean, that part, we moved a person to a hospital and they did not accept it. Then we moved to the second hospital and they didn't open the doors. So there's a decision point कि oxygen इतना चलेगा. So we were very clear about our oxygen calculations.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't make it, then you go back home. अब वापस लेके आए तो there was no oxygen left, so there was no concentrator left. So अभी concentrator on हो गया है. So this is this case now the family is becoming impatient and उस समय ना एक OTP ये एम्बुलेंस का स्कैम चल रहा था कि आप 20,000 भेजो और हम एम्बुलेंस भेज रहे हैं.
Right.
So similarly when this happened उन्होंने बोला नहीं जी ये 20,000 का एम्बुलेंस मिल रहा है. I said no. And that was very near, by the way. When you plot it, it was just about 10 minutes away. But somehow the gut feeling told me it's a scam. So we arranged an ambulance from Batra. Now Batra would have taken 1 hour to reach. Now it's a risk.
Yeah.
Because अगर वो मैं लेता और स्कैम में 20,000 चले जाते उनके तो फैमिली का मोरल उधर ही खत्म हो जाता. Because as such they didn't have that much of resources.
Yeah.
So now it was a risk of this thing that okay, I said okay Batra से आएगी and उसमें भी हम validate करते थे ना कि एम्बुलेंस चल रही है नहीं चल रही है उसमें ऑक्सीजन कितना है ये कितना है ना all those things are happening live, all those things, all verifications, everything happening. Then we put this patient there. इस बीच में जो concentrator था that started overheating. So it's like a proper जैसे एक surgery हो रही होती है ना. This guy is there, this guy is there, oh, give me the scissors and this thing. So it's like in a WhatsApp group, it's a surgery happening.
Yeah.
So the oxygen guy is saying, okay, this is possible. This guy is saying, this is possible. This guy is saying, sir, यहाँ traffic है, ये. So something like that was created. Amazing. And like this, you had maybe 3-4 parallel cases being handled in the same group. So the amount of concentration that you require to handle each case, इसका ये, इसका ये, इसका ये.
That required judgments.
That required judgments and it was, it is intense. And ज़्यादातर ये सारे केस रात को आते थे. So this has happened between 1 o'clock in the night till 4:30 in the morning.
Amazing.
So first 120 hours though I didn't know where it was. I was just, there was no sleep. I mean, that was the intensity at which doing things.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And you could save so many lives.
I said the team, I would say, ma'am, again.
Yeah, you and
not
the team.
me, the
you
team.
and the team.
Yes.
The team exists.
One day I have the desire that I want a film to be made on the volunteers who worked on it.
Yeah.
Because there were these kids who were losing their own family members. Somebody lost a parent, somebody lost a brother, they went cremated, they came back and they're back in action. जनरली होता है ना, घर में होता है तो सब तोड़ फोड़ के रोना धोना वो सब रहता है, एंड देन शोक चलता है 10 दिन तक, कुछ खाना नहीं. दिस इज व्हाट आई टेल यू. And these are simple girls. Some of them couldn't even properly speak English, but what amazing fighting spirit. We broke remdesivir cartels. We broke medicine cartels. We broke oxygen cartels. I had police guys in my groups. I had to find out, okay, tuck, this is happening there, take it on. Because Kranti is a huge ecosystem, so I've got cyber guys. So I said, इस जगह में ये chaos चल रहा है, take it on. So it was not only about medical support, it was a full-fledged ecosystem working.
This is pure act of kindness and empathy.
And
teamwork.
I mean, there are times when जैसे टोसिलोजुमैब एक मेडिसिन था मैम, उस समय 15 लाख रुपए का ब्लैक चल रहा था दिल्ली में एक डोज का. We've got it delivered free of cost to people or below MRP. मतलब
that was the power and approach of Kranti.
I remember there's one Rizwan who was in Ujjain. His father was critical. He was an ex-army officer. So there's a guy who drove the whole night from Bhilwara. We found a medicine in Bhilwara. And from there he drove all the night and reached Ujjain in the morning and just handed over the medicine and went back. Free of cost. So इस देश में ना अभी खुदारी है.
So देश में अच्छाई है. अब यकीन कर सकते हैं इस यूथ पे कि सही डायरेक्शन में ले जाएंगे हमारी.
I have a lot of faith in this.
Very nice.
दिशा निर्देश देना है, सब सही हो जाएगा.
Thank you, sir.
Cut. Ask me about Kerala.
Okay. So please tell me about your work in Kerala floods.
Okay. So this is on 31st of July 2018. That was my last day in the National Security Council. And I was in my farewell party. And 4 o'clock I get a call from my Kranti ecosystem. There was a serving naval officer and he told me that the flood warnings are there and they needed some guidance as to how to handle it. No, I'm not a flood expert. And so I told them, sir, आप इसरो से बात करो. या बोलता है सत्यम अभी कोई फ़ोन नहीं उठा रहा. आधे घंटे में कलेक्टर के साथ मीटिंग है. You have to take a call. Can you help? So then I told him, sir, I have left this office. So I've handed over the charge. So if I have to tell you something, it will be in my personal capacity. So he says that what will be, I mean, in terms of the correctness or whatever it is. Authenticity. So I told him, sir, whatever I tell you, I'll tell you with my best ability and I'll stand trial if it fails. I said, I'll take responsibility for it. So the conversation proceeded further. Then I opened my map. So thoda maine dekha, then I gave him a live record of what is to be done.
Yeah, the audio example. Records, yeah.
So it was about a 10-minute voice
planning
note. How to go about it. So I told him that these are the villages, move them by this. Don't use Kochi airport. People get flooded. Move. You know, as you study the contours.
Proper the logistics of it as well.
So how much do you move in people in which zone on that? How do you use telecom data to map out people where they are? Because when the flood comes, then you'll not know where to reach. So use telecom data, put say some special numbers in WhatsApp and online vernacular on TV. Ask pregnant ladies, cancer patient, all those people who need medical report. Yeah. So that at least you have some data to work on, you know. So anyway, whatever, I mean, there were a lot of complexities in that and I explained that to them. And what I'm given to understand is that that same plan, the way I had suggested, it's there on my LinkedIn profile, by the way, that letter that came from them. So that was implemented total.
Okay.
And there were no errors in that. And the only lives that were lost were because of people who refused to vacate their houses in that night.
Okay.
But that was something because that was a decision of a lifetime, I would say.
Wow.
Because, you know,
you were able to save so many lives again.
I really don't know the count, but I'm given to it would be in huge numbers.
But this is what you have earned, sir. That people are calling you in need and they have this faith in you that you would be able to navigate through this problematic and natural disaster.
But trust me, I mean, till that time I got that कि क्या हाल है. It's not the scare, but it was more about यार मेरी वजह से किसी का damage ना हो.
Yeah. There's a sense of responsibility.
हाँ. but ये था कि I believed in the science.
Yeah.
That the science will not fail.
Yeah.
So I used some basic common sense to design a.
Wow.
It just happened in those 10 minutes.
That's so good, sir.
So I think, and then I was engaged in that entire process for about 7 days. So whatever best I could and my Kranti ecosystem could, be supported it, and we were able to tide over that
Wow.
challenge.
Congratulations on that, sir. A big thank you to Wing Commander Satyam for taking the time to share such incredible stories and insights with us today. Your journey in the Indian military and beyond is nothing short of inspiring. The values you have upheld and the passion you bring to everything you do truly ignite a sense of responsibility and patriotism. We hope this conversation has sparked something in our listeners and motivating them to carry forward the spirit of humanitarianism and patriotism. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us.